On Yemen, just now before this briefing, Ambassador Churkin said that the Secretary General's envoy Ismail ul-Sheikh Ahmed may have a political proposal, that what he unveiled in Kuwait was only a military proposal for the Houthis to leave cities, and that's what they rejected, which he seemed to say was understandable. Is there, in fact, a political proposal by Ismail ul-Sheikh Ahmed, and when is he going to present it?
Well, I think, obviously, the Special Envoy has proposals and ideas. Those will be first unveiled and announced in Kuwait to the parties, and I think we just have to be a little patient.
But if it was a process of sequencing, of going public with the military proposals before the political ones, and it almost resulted in the breakdown of the talks, what do you think of that? Does it make more sense to
what I think
together?
is I'm not going to, if you'll excuse the mixed metaphor, Monday quarterback and nitpick the work of the Special Envoy. He is working in an extremely challenging diplomatic atmosphere, to say the least. He is in the lead, and we will support his ideas and his working methods.
Sure. And on South Sudan, I wanted to know, I've seen a memo from DSS in South Sudan saying that they're aware of these attacks on Leer by the SPLA, and it seems from the memo that the UN acknowledges that it's the Salva Kiir forces attacking this Rick Machar area. So I wanted to know, what's the process for the UN reporting on this type of fighting that it sees? The memo also talks about a woman IDP being harassed on the way to giving birth based on her ethnicity. So I'm just wondering, what is the protocol for UNMISS or other UN forces in South Sudan to actually say what's taking place?
Well, I mean, I think it would be helpful for your friends at DSS to share whatever they share with me before the briefing, so I can give you a better update. But what is clear is that we have regularly reported from here on fighting, on incidents when they occur, and the Secretary General reports regularly to the Security Council, whether in the periodic reports on the mission or periodic briefings, verbal briefings by DPKO.
But just as an example, for example, it's reported that many UN staff have now been unable to get back into the country under this travel restriction. So it seems like this is a violation of the SOFA. Is the UN complaining publicly about?
I think we have raised this publicly. We're obviously raising it privately. It is critical that the government of South Sudan allow the UN staff to go in and do its work and implement the resolutions of the Security Council and the mandate given to us by the Security Council. Mr. Lee.
Sure. I guess it was while you were away, but the strike is ongoing in UNAMID. The national staff have gone on strike, and I've seen now and published the memo where they say, basically they were written to by headquarters saying that although UNDP, which handles their payroll, had decided that funds and program staff will be paid in dollars during a certain period of time, that this will not apply to UNAMID national staff, and they regret that UNDP told them that it would. And so, is the UN not living up to its commitment? Why would some part of UN staff be treated differently than others?
The detail of the ongoing negotiations. I know our colleagues in UNAMID are continuing to engage constructively with the National Staff Association, I think, in order to promote a rapid solution to this, and put whatever mitigating measures in place to ensure the continuity of the operations. We very much value the work that the national staff do. Obviously, that mission or any other mission can't operate without the work of dedicated national staff. And again, we appreciate their work, and I know our mission leadership is trying to resolve the issue. I think they have grievances. Management's trying to address them in as positive way as possible.
Sure, I guess maybe you can get their comment on this, because the memo says, in this regard, the funds and programs acted unilaterally without consultation with UN Secretariat. So is there I've heard a lot about this one UN. How could it be that in a mission that large?
I don't know. Again, you're in possession of a memo that I'm
right,
not.
but I'm saying, can you get an answer from them?
We can see what we can do.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to go at this a different way on this. The issue that there is a rule saying that UN, I can quote from it, but saying that you should receive permission for outside engagements, rather than ask about the one that you've refused to answer on, I wanted to ask you this. Jane Holl Lute apparently was hired in February 2016 for this post, or put into the post of sexual abuse, bringing it out of control. In April of 2016, she was named to the board of directors of Union Pacific, which seems to pay $250,000 a year. So in this case, can you say whether this outside engagement was approved by the Secretary General?
I can check if that outside engagement exists and see what I can say.
Okay,
But I'm
so
not
there's a
aware
press
of it.
release by
I mean,
Union
I
Pacific.
understand. I
Sure.
have not seen
Okay.
the press release.
But do you acknowledge that, the idea that it's a fair question to ask
I'm
whether
not saying,
publicly
I'm not
reported?
saying it's not a fair
Okay,
question.
so when you answer that one, maybe you can answer the other one.
Thank
All
you.
right. And I wanted to ask, there's an event that Fairhan's answered about in a couple of days, and yesterday he said that the event was canceled, and therefore there was no need to say why a UN security officer is on the board, what the relationship of the UN is. But in fact, I've seen that the press release that was put out before he said that is that it's postponed. They claim that there's such desire for this event that it's being postponed until mid-August. So my question to you is a very simple one. Because this is on PR Newswire, the sponsor, Jack Brewer, says that he's a UN ambassador of peace and sport. Is that true? Is that a post given by the UN to Jack Brewer?
I'm not aware that it is.
Did the Secretary General provide permission for Matthew Sullivan to be on the board of the Jack Brewer Foundation?
Again, I think Mr. Hawk has answered those
That's
questions.
a yes or no question.
I think Fahan, even from
He
my,
didn't answer yes or no.
unfortunately, even on vacation,
Right.
I watched the briefing and some exchanges between you and Fahan, and I have nothing to add to what he said to you.
But isn't
Mr. Abadi.
Yesterday, I'd asked you about this event that's scheduled for August 2. You told me to speak to the group and that Mr. Sullivan didn't know he was on the list
Yes.
and wouldn't speak at it. Since then, I've seen there are at least 3 other events at which he did speak by the same group, involving the same group, and that he's on the board of directors of the sponsor of the August 2nd thing, the Jackie Brewer Foundation. So I guess what I wanted to know is, one, to me it seems strange that he didn't know that he was listed by them if he's on the board of directors. But I've also wanted to ask, I've seen this Secretary General orders called outside activities that say staff members should not engage in these activities without the approval of the Secretary General. So I wanted to know, since this is a private for-profit company that has had its stock pitched based on the involvement of UNDSS, whether the Secretary General has in fact approved this or not, and if not, what happens next?
As I told you, he's not appearing at their function. He was not aware of this.
Did you look into it? He's on the board of directors of the group.
I've
So
discussed
I'm
it with this
asking-
person, who, by the way, has informed me that you apparently have taken some sort of gripe with him because he tried to talk to you at a stakeout. I'm aware
This
of.
is not a gripe. I'm
aware,
asking you about an official DSS
aware-
official on the board.
I'm
an
aware
You're
of
cutting me
your-
off. I thought that was unprofessional. I'm asking you a question.
No.
How does this regulation apply?
I was actually in the process of answering you, and
Okay.
then you can talk. This is how conversations go. I
Go
talk,
ahead.
then you talk, and so forth.
It's just that you walk
as-
away, so that's why I'm making sure. I want to ask. I have a number of other questions on this.
Matthew, that's not fair. I take a huge amount of questions from you, as every transcript and every video will show. Now, I have no problem with you asking questions. I do not think that you should try to use the briefing in terms of personal vendettas against people. If that's what you're doing, it's unethical, and I would have a problem with
You
that.
can say whatever you want. Okay, what I'm asking is a senior UNDSS official is, and this is all online, these are all, you could have found them yourselves with 10 minutes of Googling. He's on the board of directors of the group that you said he didn't know put him on the list. And there have been 3 separate events, one about sneakers, one about concussions in the NFL, and these have all taken place in the Eco Soccer Trusteeship Chamber. So my question is, for the service of this individual on the board of directors of a for-profit company, for for-profit events, has the Secretary General given permission? And if not, is this reflective of a lack of due diligence as in the NLEXM case? Yes or no? Was permission given?
First of all, to the extent that DSS ever gives briefings at these, there are briefings about security conditions. Those are standard. Outside of those, I'm not aware.
I urge you to look
I'm
at
not,
the press
I'm not aware of
releases.
anything that is
Well,
not
then-
a standard briefing. Second of all, did you do any of this Googling before you had your conversation in the corridors with Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, I have. I've been actually, I wrote about the concussion event because it's a joke that these events take place in the UN that are raising money. So I'm asking you about these events because you said he didn't know, and it's not credible. He's done 3 events. Look at them and see whether they were safety concerns.
Like I said, I've talked to this person, and this is what he has said. Now,